In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Today we are gonna talk about the direct objects, and this is our final revision for grammar. We are gonna start from page 18. Here we have the direct objects. As we know, the direct objects comes after the action verb. Okay, they come after the action verb. It's very important to know this point, because we have linking verbs, and linking verbs is something completely different. What is followed or what comes after the linking verb, we call it either predicate nominative or predicate adjective. Now we start with the direct object. They come after action verbs, as you know, and here we have some examples. Then here in this exercise practice A, we have to underline the direct object. What's the direct object here in number 1? Water. Okay. In number 2, it's weather. Okay. In number 3, nap. And here we have staff. Staff only. Okay. Then we have here the word tools, okay, and so on. So the direct object comes after the action verbs. Here the question is asking you just to say yes or no. If you have direct objects, write yes. If you don't have, write no. The first one here, as you can see, we don't have any direct objects. And also here in number 5 and 6, here we have what? On time. This is not direct object. Okay, it's prepositional phrase. And here we have intransitive verb. We don't have indirect. We don't have direct objects. So what are the sentences that got direct objects? Sentence number 2. Okay, prepared the meal. This is the direct object. And sentence number 3, we have mom here. And then sentence number 4, we have tennis. You got that? Now we move to the other point, indirect objects. Indirect objects are who? It often names, okay? Names what? The person or thing that sometimes that something is given to or done for. When I say I give Ahmad a present, Ahmad here we call it indirect object. This word is what? Indirect object. Okay. And here we have some examples. Here the question is asking you underline the direct object and circle the indirect object. We have to what? Underline the direct object, circle the indirect object. Okay. So number 1, what's it, the direct object and indirect object here? In number 1 we have the indirect object sun, circle sun, okay, and then playhouse, underline playhouse. It's direct object. Again, number 2, sister, okay, sister here is what? Indirect object. Lunch, direct object. So you have to underline lunch and circle sister. You got the idea? Circle sister. Okay. Number 3, underline a cake and circle husband. Okay. Number 4, underline question. Because it's direct object, circle mom. Underline gift, circle son, and so on. In this question you have just to tell me if you have a direct object, okay. If it doesn't have an indirect object, write no. If you have, write yes. So what are the sentences here that got direct objects and those that don't get direct object? We have here number 4 and 5 and numbers 8. 4 and 5 and number 8. We don't have any direct object here in these sentences. Okay, number 4, we only have direct object, football. Number 5, we have boat. We don't have any direct object, any indirect object. Number 6, we have, okay, we have here direct and indirect object. But here number 7, okay, me, indirect object, direct object. Email, only here. So we have here only direct object. Okay. Object complements. We are not gonna take this part because it's not with us in the exam. It's very easy, but we didn't take it. Now we have subject complement. A subject complement is a noun or pronoun or an adjective that appear with what? Linking verb. This is very important. So what comes after a linking verb, we call it subject complement. This subject complement may be either the predicate nominative. If it's a noun, we call it predicate nominative. If it's adjective, we call it predicate adjective. And the definition is written here. Predicate nominative and predicate adjective. Then we have some examples here. And a question. Practice A. Underline the subject complement. What's the subject complement here in this sentence? Number 1. The subject complement here is what? Okay, it's kind. The question is not asking you to tell me what's the type of this complement, adjective or noun. Okay, just underline it. We need just to underline the complement, the subject complement. What's the subject complement? It's the complement that comes after a linking verb. Again, it may be a noun or adjective. So here we have the word kind. Okay? And then we have grandfather. Then we have president. Okay? President here, complement. Then we have icy. Then we have professional. Okay, and the same with these sentences. This question is telling you underline the complement and please tell me the type of this complement. Is it predicate nominative or predicate adjective? You have to decide. Predicate nominative means a noun if it's a noun. Predicate adjective if it's adjective. I think this is clear. Now number 1. Where is the complement here? Yes, friend. And what type? P-N. Predicate nominative. And here, dark and lovely. Predicate adjective. Here, marvelous. Predicate adjective. Troublemaker. Predicate what? Nominative. It's a noun. It's a noun. Okay? In number 5, we have champion. And it's predicate nominative. And so on with the others. Then we have prepositional phrases. As you know, the prepositional phrases are phrases that start with a preposition. And the noun that followed, the main noun that followed the preposition is called object of preposition. And here we have some examples here. Identifying prepositional phrases. Just tell me where the prepositional phrase is here in this sentence, in these sentences. It's very simple and easy. Into the table, the hole, okay, in the rain, during the movie, okay, the other one here, under the tree. Then we have for college. Then we have to his friend, okay, and the rest or the other sentences are the same. Again, we have the same question, but here he's asking you decide. Tell me, what's the type of this prepositional phrase? Is it adjective phrase or adverb phrase? if it's adjective phrase, how can I tell it's adjective or adverb? What's the difference? Actually, the adjectival phrase works as the normal adjective. It means what? It means they can modify a noun or pronoun. What about the adverbial phrase? The adverbial phrase also can work like the normal adverb. It means they can modify, talk about, describe what? They can modify a verb, adverb, or adjective. This is the adverbial phrase. So here you have to decide the type of the propositional phrase. In number one, what's the type here? It's what? Adjectival phrase. Number two, it's adverbial. Adverbial phrase. After lunch. Okay? So the custodian wipes the tables when? When? After lunch. Here I'm gonna talk about when he wipes these tables. I'm modifying, I'm talking about the verb here. What about number three? Number three here, okay, adverbial. The same thing here. Number four, if you study this sentence, you are gonna discover it's an adjective. People of all ages. It talks about the people. Modify them. Tell us something about the word people. The other sentence, the last one, actually is also what? Adjectival phrase. Why? It talks about the book. Modify the book. Gives us more information about which book we mean. Are you talking about history book, science book, or what? Which type of book you are talking about? It's about dancing, a dancing book. Okay. This is the propositional phrases. They may be adverbial or adjectival phrase, and you have to decide which one is adverbial, which one is adjectival phrase. The appositive and appositive phrase. As you know, the appositive is a group of words that identify names or explain a noun or pronoun. Give us, in other words, the appositives give us extra information about the noun they talk about or modify. And here you have some examples, and then we have our exercise here. Just underline the appositive phrase. Underline the appositive phrase. In number one, of course, the appositive is preceded by a comma and followed by a comma. As you can see here, we have a comma here before and a comma after. But we have to add these commas if the appositive is non-essential. Means what? If it's not important. You can add this comma when the appositive is not important. It doesn't affect the sentence. If you erase the appositive, the sentence is still got a complete meaning and clear meaning. But if it's important, do not use comma. Okay? So we have to erase or underline this part. This is the appositive phrase. It's here. Okay? As you can see here also we have my sister, the appositive phrase. Here we don't have comma. In number three, we don't have comma. It means that this appositive is very important, is essential. My friend, John. Not my friend Ahmed, not my friend Sulaiman, not my friend Yazan. No, my friend John. So John here, I'm talking about John. Not all my friends. So it's important. That's why we didn't use comma here. Okay? But this is the appositive John. Then we have for Mrs. Wells. This is appositive. Another appositive here, the one my father gave me. Okay? And the rest is the same here. You can continue answering the other sentences yourself. Here we have to join two sentences with each other using the appositive phrase. Combine the two choppy sentences into one interesting sentence by using an appositive or appositive phrase. Here we have number one. I'm going to do number one for you and you can continue the rest. In number one, Susan is a college student. Susan studies often. So you can say, Susan, a college student, studies often. Again, Susan, comma, a college student, studies often. The appositive here is what? A college student. It gives me extra information about Susan. You got the idea? Susan, comma, a college student, comma, studies often. Okay? The last point we are going to study here is the verbal phrases. The verbal phrases here are verbs, but they are not used actually as verbs. They are used as any other part of speech, like nouns, adjectives, adverbs, and so on. A verbal is a verb that is used as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. They are used as any different part of a speech. A verbal that includes a modifier or complements is called verbal phrase. If you have more than one word in the verb before the verb or after the verb, we call it verb phrase. Okay? And here we have some examples. Identify verbal phrases and verbals in the sentences. Just underline them. Okay? Underline the verbal or verbal phrases in each sentence. Note that the verbal in this exercise are participles or participial phrases, which means they describe nouns. Okay. Number 1. The verbal here is what? Exhausted from fatigue. Exhausted from fatigue, the verbal phrase. Number 2, we have picked off the tree. Number 3, limping badly. Number 4, sleeping. Number 5, newly minted. Okay, and the rest are the same. You can do them yourself. Here, the exercise here on the line provided indicate whether the underlined words in each sentence are verb expressing action. You have to tell me if it's a verb, action verb, or participial phrase, a verbal phrase that describe a noun. In other words, it's a verb, but it's not used in the sentence as an action verb. Okay, you have to tell me, is it a verb or verbal? Number 1. Number 1 here is what? Looked in a case, it's participial phrase. Okay. Number 2, participial phrase. Here we have the verb. Here we have the verb. Okay. So these are not verbs. Number 3, verb. Verb. This is the action verb. Okay. Number 4 is what? Participial phrase. This is not a verb. Where is the verb? Here. We have the verb here. Number 5, participial phrase. This is not a verb. The verb is here. Okay. I wish you all the best. Please try your best. Study hard. Work hard. And thanks for listening. You have a nice day. Thank you.